2, 1. Hey, David, you ready?
Here it comes.
Hold on. Boom.
You had to do the old guy bifocal thing.
Yeah, I had to look at it through the old bifocals. I know. You notice I'm bending my knees today. Speaking of old guy stuff, my sciatica is getting better. I got medication for my jumper's knee. That's what the type of tendonitis is that I have is called. And I'm
Wait. Why is it called jumper's knee?
No idea, but that's what it's called. Why is it called tennis elbow?
Because you get it playing tennis.
Maybe I got it from jumping.
Not an airplane.
Right? Show your shoe. Oh, we got the black and golds on tonight. Hey, David, I'm excited for this episode.
Me too.
You want to do a podcast?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Unidentical.
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 Welcome back to the Unidentical podcast. I'm Jason Collins, along with my brother,
David Collins.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to rate and review at Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, wherever it is that you download your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review. It definitely helps us with the algorithms if you want this channel to keep going. If you want to watch us on YouTube, that's the Unidentical Pod. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you know when a new episode or anything new is coming at you. And as always, you can get your one-stop shop. Unidentical Pod is at unidenticalpod.com. We got links to the merchandise there. We will be selling merch. We are selling merch. As you can see, I got my hoodie on.
Nice.
Dave's got
Yeah,
his tee.
Nice.
Dave's got his t-shirt on. Make sure you go there for all your merch. Everything official Unidentical Pod. That is unidenticalpod.com. And if you want to send us a story, a question, anything you want us to talk about, go to unidenticalpod@gmail.com, right?
That's the one, yep.
It's not it's just unidenticalpod@gmail.com. And as you can see, today we're in the big room. What does that mean?
The big
Exciting.
boy room.
What's that?
Big boy room.
Big boy room.
Right.
We got our big boy pants on in the big boy room. And that means what, Dave?
Guest.
We have a guest. And today's guest, I'm so excited. I'm so happy that he's here. One of the things that's very hard and rare to find in our business is an ally, as a real true friend, an ally, that's somebody that's looking out for you. I've yet to have that experience. But anyways, our guest today was that guy for me in the beginning of my stand-up career, and he still helps me out so much this day. He is a legend in the comedy game. He is a legend in the radio game. Please welcome to Unidentical Pod, Mr. Frazer Smith. Frazer's here.
Hi, guys. Wow.
We're in front of a live
That
audience.
crowd loves me.
We're in front of a live audience. They
It's
love
great
it.
to
All
see
the
you.
crowds love you, man.
Wow.
Frazer,
Well, I have a double jumper's knee.
yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm here.
You have squatter's knee,
It's unidentical. Unidentical.
unidentical. Yeah, that's because I have the one and you have the two.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so happy that you came out, man. We hang out. You and I hang out. I don't mean out of the closet. I mean came out down to
Hey.
Long Beach. Where are we? We're in Bixby.
We're in the LBC.
We're in the LBC, baby. Frazer came all the way down to Long Beach to hang out with me today. Frazer and I have spent a lot of time together in the comedy scene. He, like I said, in the beginning of my career, he helped me out so much. Like I said, I don't know if you know this, Frazer, but you got me my first spot at the Comedy Store.
I did?
You did.
How'd
You
that
got me
happen?
my first spot at the Comedy Store. Well, I was told to show up to that Monday, Sunday thing, and I happened to show up on a day you were there. You recognized me and as kind of been around a little bit. You said, hey, so hang out, I'll get you up. And you got me up.
Wow.
You got me on stage there, and it helped big time. You also, I don't know if you remember this, you got me my first spot at the Ice House when it was still a comedy club.
I think I do remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Rudy Moreno's show.
On Rudy's show. That's
You were
right.
doing it, and you said you got to put this kid up, and that was my first time doing the Ice House as well, which is that original main room.
Well,
Legend.
Thanks for remembering that because I know at my age I won't. But I will say this: I am a fan of yours, and
Thanks, man.
right from the beginning, I don't think I've seen anybody move quicker in the comedy world than you, and it's because you are funny.
See,
You're a
and
natural.
back then, that
Rare.
mattered. Back then,
Rare,
that
bro.
mattered. I didn't have to, have a billion followers on these Instagram, TikTok, on the other stuff. Back then, you just had to show up, be funny, and what they called undeniable.
You moved and grooved really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky to meet guys like, I met you before I was a comic. The first time I met you, I was hanging around with Jokoy.
My buddy Jokoy,
Yes.
who I just, by the way, opened for at the Forum.
How was that?
Oh, wow.
18,000 guys,
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
and I bombed. No, I
No way.
killed guys at the Forum.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Forum in LA. Like I've done the arena stuff with Russell, but to be able to do it in your home city in LA, oh, man, I would love it.
Here's what was wild, though. He said, I want you to open for me. He goes, go out there and plug my merch.
Did he really?
Yeah. So I went out there and I didn't plug the fucking merch. Forget the merch. But I did go out there and I did do a bunch of jokes. And but it was totally dark, no intro.
Wow.
I couldn't even find the mic. As soon as I found the mic, the lights came on, boom, and there's 18,000.
What's that like? I mean, see, I don't perform like you guys do.
Well, I started singing Surfing Bird. That didn't work. No, it was surprisingly calm. I felt calm. I don't know why.
You think you're going to freak out in those situations, and then you do. Then you get there, but then you realize, why would I freak out about something that this is what I do. This is what I work towards.
I think that's really true.
It's not like you were in the audience and they said, "Hey, sir, you want to do 10 minutes in the beginning?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Jokoy was very gracious to let me do that. And he's an old friend of yours, right?
Old friend of mine. I've known Joe since before I did stand-up. And I used to run around with him to his shows. And one night he said, "Come out to this show with me. I'm doing, I'm featuring." It was Brea Improv. You were hosting, Joe was featuring, and Jon Lovitz was headlining.
Jon Lovitz.
Yes.
Wow.
Jokoy.
Okay, Jokoy.
That bit about
you guys know Jokoy? Well, I've got a joke.
You would do that, and it was always racist.
Yeah.
And it was something with the R and the L. I can't remember what the bit was.
Jokoy.
You know, he kicked me that night.
Who Lovitz did?
Lovitz kicked me in the shin that night.
Yeah.
Because Joe introduces me to him. He says, "This is my buddy Jason." And like I said before, I was a comic. He said Joe used to always tell everybody I was a kung fu master. He goes, "This is my buddy Jason. He's a kung fu master." And we're out. We were right outside the green room, and the show was over, and everybody was gone. And Joe introduces me and says, "This is my buddy Jason. He's a kung fu master." And Lovitz goes, "Well, what do you do if I do this?" And he kicked me hard, pretty hard.
Really?
I was like, "Oh!" And I was like, usually I'd kick the shit out of you, but
you are Jon Lovitz.
You're Jon Lovitz, right? But it was that night that I met you that Joe kind of gave me a lecture at my parents' house to get into this. Stop being a pussy.
He knew that you were talented.
And then I met you, and I'm like, oh. And then I was like, and then when I met you down there, you were so nice to me. And then I remember going to the Laugh Factory all the time and watching you.
That's when I remember.
We would go. Remember Joe would invite us to the show, and you were always on the show.
I remember the first time I ever saw you, and you were about to go into the Coupe de Ville. Remember the Snoop de Ville?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And you had a bunch of different names for car.
Yeah.
But right before it, my brother goes, "Watch this," to me, and I was like, "Oh,
this is a great pic. Watch this." Yeah. You had the Preludicrous.
Preludicrous, right.
In the 50 Centra.
50 Centra.
50 Centra was another
wow,
one.
you guys got better memories than I do. I can't remember any of that.
You had like 20 of them.
I had another one that was a car sponsored by condoms or something.
Snoop de Ville.
And if you waxed it, it turned into a
no, that was my I had sponsored by Viagra.
Yeah.
I go, they've got a NASCAR car sponsored by Viagra.
Yeah.
This thing's great. When you wax it, it turns into a limo.
See, I love that.
Like, keep rubbing. It comes in first, second, and third.
Oh, nice.
Good night.
Good night.
My favorite is when you go, "These are the jokes, folks."
Knock it off. Come on, guys.
But I remember going home and telling my mom, I said, "I met this guy tonight. He was awesome. He was so nice to me." And I said, "It's Frazer Smith." And my mom was like, "You mean from the radio?"
Yeah.
Well, all the moms know me.
Yeah. And I'm like, "What? He's a comedian." She's like, "No." And then I remember, you and I have done the road together now, and you've told me so many great stories. So basically, you're from Detroit.
From Detroit.
When did you get out to LA, and why?
Well, I was, it was funny. I had Cheech and Chong on my radio show in Detroit. And those guys were my buddies. And they said, don't ever go into stand-up comedy or come to LA. So I said, well, I've got to show those guys wrong. No, they were.
I was going to say, did they really say that?
No, they were very gracious, and they would go, "Hey, you're pretty funny, man. You ought to try this in L.A."
Were they high at the time?
They were really high, so that's the only reason they thought I was funny.
Hey.
But they did have good weed, so I figured I'll follow them out, and maybe I can hook up some weed. No, I was friends with them, and they suggested I come out here, and
so you were doing radio already back there.
Yeah, back there in Detroit.
Wow. And you were kind of like, from what I've heard a lot of people say about you, and that you were kind of the OG original shock jock.
Yeah, I guess so.
You were
right?
You were Howard Stern before there was a Howard Stern type of thing.
Howard Stern used to actually write letters to me,
Wow.
like regular letters.
Back then,
Hey,
you
how
were
do we
nice
get
to put
into how do I get into radio and stuff? And ask me,
Really?
yeah, he wanted to do this, and so I would write him back and go, please don't get into it. I don't need
Please
the
don't.
competition. But yeah. So then I came out here, and I started asking my friends out here. I would hang out with my buddies that used to live in Detroit.
Mm.
They were out here. So I said, well, where should I go to get a radio job? And they go, you got to try KROQ, because nobody, it's a tiny little station, but everyone in town is listening to it.
Right.
So I
They
called
were
up.
the first place playing like the new wave stuff.
Yeah, they were playing all the new stuff when I got there. And so I called them up, and they said, well, you can come on the air if you can get this guy from Firesign Theater. His name was Phil Austin. They were a comedy group too. So I got Phil, and we did a show called Hollywood Night Shift. And it was on Sunday nights. And it was just us, and we would just ad-lib everything. We would talk over these sound effect records. We put these sound effect records on and just ad-lib stuff like,
Oh, that's great.
we had this thing called Train Ride to Hell, where we would like, every layer was us getting closer to hell on this train. And then what's on this level? And then we hear pneumatic drills, and we start ad-libbing.
That's
And
great.
it really caught on big. I don't know why, but it did.
That's
And
one I loved was the Rose Parade.
yeah, well, that's the one everybody likes, is when we make fun of the Rose Parade.
Yeah.
But after that, they gave me my own show, and then that went through the roof because I played all the new music. And Rodney Bingenheimer,
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who that is. He was
Yeah.
the guy that was kind of the new music guy,
Mm.
and he knew all the new bands because he worked for NME, which is the English version of Rolling Stone.
Okay.
So he would go, "Hey, play these guys," and I go, "Who are the Sex Pistols?" You go, "Just play them."
Hmm.
And the first night I was on the air, I met Deborah Harry and Blondie.
Wow.
Did you fall in love? I was.
Oh yeah, man. Sex Pistols, Ramones, and Tom Petty, and none of them
First
had
night?
first night. None of them had
Wow.
any product out. No, nobody had any product out. And Rodney goes, "They're all going to be huge," and I'm like, "Okay, Rodney, whatever you say."
Whatever you say. Buddy.
Yeah, but then they all were huge,
Isn't that what it is?
and I was playing them first because Rodney told me to, and then.
Should have taken credit for that. No.
Is that Rod?
Yeah. I'm a
we edit
seer.
that out about Rodney because I'll just say that I can.
Yeah. You're the guy. You're the
but-
tastemaker. You
But
know.
I did discover some on my own because David Lee Roth, across the street at the Pasadena Hilton from
Yeah.
KROQ, they were the house band at the Pasadena Hilton,
Van Halen.
Van Halen.
All right.
And so they would finish their set and then come across, David Lee Roth would come across the street and climb up the fire escape, climb in through the window, and try to get me to play his test pressing. Hey, dude, can you play this, man? Come on. Get out of here, dude. Who are you? You can't come in here. And I kept throwing him out. And then every week
He jump split out the window.
Yeah. He would come back every week and try to get me. And finally I played it just to get him off my back and went through the roof.
Yeah.
What song was it?
Ain't Talking About Love from the first album.
Wow.
And then I went
So you discovered Van Halen.
basically, well, I played him first. I don't know if that's
Right. Well, no, it is.
kind of in a way.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I'd say that's because I mean, you were the guy that said yes.
Yep.
You know.
And back then, that was the key. Well, it's always the key. If you're a band, you guys know this.
Yep.
Because you have your Brothers Johnson story.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about later. But, airplay is the key.
Right.
And if
it was such a different game back then because it was a physical. When you said test press or what did you call
test
it?
pressing.
Test pressing. That's actual vinyl record.
Yeah.
Right?
It's vinyl.
That's what our dad had.
Yeah. Sure.
Threw it on a turntable and you played it.
Sure. Just like a regular record. And we were still vinyl then at KROQ.
Mhm.
K-Rock.
KROQ.
That was
Did
the
you?
spot.
What's the guy's? What was there? There was a guy there. There was that Kevin and Bean. Did you know their guy that produced it, Lightning? They
I didn't
called
know
him-
Lightning. No.
Oh, okay, I was just wondering because that's KROQ. He's a Long Beach guy.
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I taught his kid.
Oh, did you? Okay,
His
cool.
wife and I have known each other since elementary.
You know, the
school.
thing I'm excited about, guys, and I appreciate you bringing up my radio days, the early days, and we can talk more about it. But I'm excited to be in the hood where the dojo, the OG dojo was,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Because I've heard about it for years, man.
Yeah, we're a block. What are we? 2-3 city blocks right now from the intersection.
Now,
of
how
our
did you
martial
get
arts
that
school.
started?
So when we were about 12, 13 years old, our father put us into martial arts mainly because of me. because I was having issues at fighting at school. I was getting in a lot of fights at school, winning none of them. And
Well, this is Long Beach.
yeah, and it was
tough hood.
and then I was fighting a lot for him because he was so chill, because he just wouldn't.
Things wouldn't bother me, and he'd want them to bother me.
I-
So he would go kick a guy.
Me, I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted justice.
Yeah.
This isn't right. So I'm gonna go kick the shit. I always got beat up, and then I was getting kicked out of school and that stuff for physically fighting. And my father, he did a little bit of martial arts in the military. He did like some judo and stuff like that, and he knew it was a discipline. And that's the key word. What a lot of people don't realize is it's discipline.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm going to put these. And then my brother and I watched this movie called The Last Dragon. And it was with
Barry Gordy's.
Remember Vanity?
Oh, yeah,
Barry
yeah,
Gordy.
yeah.
It was Barry Gordy's movie.
Yeah.
It was a lot of, and it was Shogun of Harlem. And then the lead character, Timac is his name. This movie was incredible. And the martial arts was great. Because we had Karate Kid. But Ralph Macchio, awesome. But he just wasn't a martial artist.
Right.
And when he did martial arts, I was embarrassed for him.
Okay.
It was very robotic and clumsy, and he always wore his belt too high. I don't know.
That
But so
Right there,
I saw
so
that, and I thought,
that's a tip off.
I want to do this. I do want to do this, Dad. And my dad was really cool about letting us navigate things on our own and figure shit out. So he's like, I'll put you in martial arts school, but you need to find the school. So we opened up the Yellow Pages. I found a school that I liked the logo.
Okay.
I liked the logo, and it was on the same street that I lived on. But we're in a city, so that's far. It's not like a walking distance. But I noticed it was on Bellflower Boulevard, and we lived on. So I was like, let's go to this one. And my dad took us in there, and
Who was your sensei?
his name was William. His last name, and this is probably how he got into martial arts from bullying. His last name is Mailman. He has passed away.
He
Yeah.
just recently passed, but his last name was Mailman.
Really?
Mailman. He said Mailman, but it was Mailman.
So instead of
Spelled
delivering
like,
the letters, he's delivering
Yeah.
Ass
karate
kicking.
He
chops.
delivered an ass kicking.
Yeah.
He was the mailman.
Delivered a
Who's the
few.
basketball player they called that?
Jay.
Carl Malone.
Carl Malone was the mailman.
Mailman, yes, he
He always
was.
delivered.
Yes, he was.
So then we got into it. We got into the thing. My brother and I immediately excelled at it because it wasn't organized sports. It was very much of an individual experience.
But we also had a training buddy at home.
Yeah, and we could
advantage.
train with each other at home.
Oh, that helps.
And
Yeah.
then turns out a guy that I went to the first day there was a picture of some of the students, and there was a guy, and I'm like, that kid goes to our school, and he ended up becoming a lifelong best friend of ours. And
To this day, yeah.
Wow.
We share
my
a birthday.
dad,
Was your sensei was Mailman pretty good?
he was really good.
He was the old school kind too.
very old school.
Oh, that's
like,
the best,
we
right?
didn't
didn't
get
mess
hit.
around,
We didn't
yeah.
wear pads. We would get hit, knocked over. We fought on concrete. It was a very old school thing. And then my brother and I excelled at it. And at the time, my dad before he was like a CEO of like an electronics company, he was a very physically fit guy. He was very nimble. He was ripped. And then he
Was he a karate guy too?
eventually. So when David and I were about brown belt, he says, I think would it bother? This is another great thing he did. He wanted this to be our thing. He didn't want it to be, you're doing this because of me. So he asked us, would it be okay with you guys if I took classes? And I think our first reaction was like, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
But
Because
then
we're already
that-
brown belts. So he'd be a white belt. He freaking excels at
Of
it.
course, he was like,
your
dad
the
was
best. Yeah.
He
badass,
gets so
huh?
good at it.
Yeah, like he.
Meanwhile, he's working at this company that when he was a musician, and one of the guitar players in one of his bands started this company. And my dad, when he got out of music, he went to this guy, and this guy's like, they started a company out of the garage of this guy's home, and they built it into a Fortune 500 Inc. company
Wow.
based out in Orange County.
Wow.
So, but doing that, he got out of shape. And then, but apparently the boss, the owner of the company was really crooked. He was a criminal. He was a crooked guy, did a lot of crooked deals, got in a lot of trouble, and lost a lot of money. And they were doing by then I was 21. I was a second-degree black belt. My brother was already teaching at our instructor school as an assistant instructor. He was a third-degree black belt.
My first job.
Yeah.
was teaching.
And
What a great gig.
Yeah.
one day I'm at work with my dad. I'm working in the warehouse. He's in his office. And over the intercom, hey, Jason, your dad wants to see you in his office. And I'm like, what did I do? I knew I got to work late that day. I was out clubbing the night before or whatever. I was like,
Of course
"Thank
you were."
Give me shit about that. So he said, hey, man, come in, shut the door. I was like, all right. He goes, look, I don't want to do this anymore. And I thought he meant like me working there. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I just got asked to lay some people off. And the very first person that they want me to lay off is my own son. They wanted him to fire me.
Oh gosh.
And he's like, fuck that. Fuck this place. I'm done. I go, well, what are we going to do, Dad? This is how I pay my car payment, you know? He says, why don't we open a martial arts school? Your brother's already teaching. You're teaching part-time. We're all black belts. Let's open our own school.
Wow. Pops came up with the idea.
And I'm like, okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, I wasn't coming up with any ideas. I was just trying to get laid.
We were 21.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I didn't know shit. And no exaggeration, a month, almost to the day after that meeting in his office, we opened our doors.
And what'd you do? You went and found a place to
Found
lease?
a place. We decided to be a franchise of my instructor's schools. And so he was very hands-on in helping us.
So he's still
find a
involved.
location. My instructor, he was very hands-on in finding a location. He put me to work to build. We had to build dressing rooms and all this stuff and build out this. And I learned construction while I was doing it.
Yeah.
And in June of 92, we opened our doors, June of 92.
Wow. That is awesome. How'd you get your students?
You know, Yellow Pages, the old school days,
Well,
90s, Yellow Pages,
I was an
word of mouth.
established teacher as well, though.
So you already had,
I was an established teacher, and I
Students.
was teaching at my instructor's school. And by doing that, you get students who are attached to you.
He's
And
the
my-
favorite instructor.
My instructor told me, he goes, you're going to have at least 40 students when you open.
just right off the bat.
Sure enough.
'Cause
Oh, that's great.
Sure enough, that's exactly, we had like 40-something students.
Wow.
At one point, we had almost 300.
That's what I was getting. What did it build up to?
A lot. And we were making money. The place was making money. And, you know, just, but it was never our dream.
Yeah, even over the years, I even became head of my own.
He opened this
I have like guys who have their own academies under me still. And,
Wow. Wow. You still do, huh?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But when I was 34, 33, I met Joe at my best friend that I grew up with. He kind of discovered Jokoy. I'm giving him that credit because
Me too.
Is Jokoy into martial arts?
he is now.
Oh, is he?
He's
Uh-huh.
always been a fan of it, from what I understand. I got a
He
great
came down to
story
Long
about
Beach a
that.
couple times and trained with me.
Yeah,
Well, he told me that, Bruce Lee had the 1-inch punch. He came up with the 2-inch punch.
yeah, which is
I
just
said,
kind of a rip.
Come on, Jokoy. That's a rip-off.
But yeah, so we did that, and then when I was 33, 34, I met Joe, and then I started hanging out with him, and then I met you, and then I got into stand-up, and then my first 7 years of stand-up, I still owned the school.
So you still were teaching?
Yeah, for the first 7 years, I was teaching and running the school,
And then you run up
going out
and
at
do a
night,
set and
stand up
yeah.
Because we had like you said, we had more than one school at that. So I was already in another one.
I
So
had to stay in-
someone had to take care of the
Yeah.
other one.
And then Dad got sick, so he had to stop teaching. And so, yeah, it just became that thing. And then when I did the Tonight Show, I sold the school thinking that I made it.
Well,
Boy, was I wrong.
but let's talk about that Tonight Show appearance, because that's pretty special.
It was interesting. I've told the story here on the podcast a few times. I didn't know I was doing it till the day I did it.
That's so amazing. I've heard that from
Yeah.
many people. Yeah.
I booked it and then didn't hear anything for like 6 months. And I thought it was going to go away. I called my manager. I was like, what's going on? They said I booked it. And he's like, yo, they're moving it to New York. It's probably going to go away. We might have to look somewhere else, maybe Conan or something like that. I was like, all right. But I was so heavily working on that set. I had it so memorized that I was just ready, you know? And then one day, my manager calls me and says, hey, can you do the Tonight Show today? I go, what? He goes, today. Can you do it today? It was
Wow.
Josh, remember Josh was really like,
Right, yeah.
come on, quit fucking around. Can you do it or not? You know? And I said, yeah, I can do it today. And then my son, who's my 29-year-old, who was 18 at the time, I said, John, you want to go to the Tonight Show? They had the car pick me up super early because it was down here in Long Beach and they didn't want me to be late.
Yeah.
So I got to set really early. And then Jay was really awesome to me. And then, and then I did it. And
Jay was cool.
Oh, it's
And how
the
was
best.
your experience? Was it fun? Did it go over well?
I got 6 applause breaks in 4.5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And Joe called me, coy, and said that was probably one of the best late night shows.
Oh my gosh.
I was really happy with it. And it was one of those things where when I was behind the part that opens up before you walk out, I'm standing behind, and one of the stage producers, she's like, are you good? You ready? And as soon as she asked me that, in my head, I was like, yeah. I'm literally exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. And no nerves.
That's interesting.
Walked out, did the set, didn't look at the teleprompter, didn't look at the clock, just did my set like I
You
was at
had
a
it
club.
dialed in.
Had it dialed in.
Yeah.
Did my set like I was at a club, said goodnight, boom.
Now, were you running that set over and over, just that set?
Yeah.
Just the 4 minutes or 4.5 or
4.5
whatever?
minutes, because even though they said the Tonight Show might go away, I'm very much like, okay, fuck them. I'm going to do it somewhere.
Do it. Yeah.
Going to do it somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy it was the Tonight Show. And I'm so
Yeah.
happy it was with Jay.
Oh, yes.
Because I just did a show with him last week, and he's just still such a great dude.
He's a fan of yours.
He's the
I love
best.
those pics he took with mom.
He was so cool to my mom.
Cute, man.
Jay Davis, way different.
Hey, this is a good gig, man.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is this Tonight Show a good thing?
Yeah. It's a good spot, right?
Yeah. How you?
But he was really cool with my mom. Took pictures.
Oh, that's great. He's a gracious guy.
Yeah.
And, he's a fan of comedy, so I'm sure he's a fan of yours.
Comic. That's
Yeah.
the vibe I got from him when I did the show. So Jay walked me out on the set, showed me where not to go, and blah, blah, blah. And it was 2 seconds of that. And then it was, so how's comedy? You want to talk about the store and comedy store? And so it was pretty cool.
Jay's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. What a great experience. Lifetime experience.
Oh.
When did you make the transformation from, radio jockey? What do you guys call it? Disc jockey, DJs?
Well, I like to call radio jockeys because
Guy.
I feel as though that's a way. No, it's a disc jockey is what it's called.
With a little outfit with a hat.
Radio
you have
jockey.
a hat
And all he's wearing is jockeys.
Yeah.
I'm a radio jockey.
When did you make the transition from that to stand?
Well, Jamie Masada, the owner of the Laugh Factory,
love this.
is an old friend, and I had a radio show that was really had taken off in town.
Two hit, baby.
Yeah,
We had our two
gotta go.
stickers.
Did he have them?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I was also the party animal.
People should know about this two hip.
He was the
thing.
party animal.
El Animal.
Right. The two hip stickers that you see, that was your
Like the
thing?
rainbow.
Yeah, that was mine.
The first
Yeah,
gay
and you
pride
still
sticker
see
because they had the rainbow. thing
Yeah.
on it.
It was too hip.
Still see them, yeah.
When I did the thing at the forum the other night, people were yelling, too hip.
Ah,
And I said, at the end, I go, gotta go. But it was,
Jamie's your buddy, but wasn't he like a sidekick on the radio?
yeah. My producer, I already had a show that was kind of working. It was climbing up the charts, as they say. And so my producer says to me, Vic Dunlop was my producer, the comedian. He was a really good comedian. And Vic said, I got a sidekick for you. I go, well, do I really need one? He goes, yeah, this guy, it'll be perfect. I want you to meet this guy. So he brings Jamie up to his office, and Jamie is just a complete dick. There you go, the two hip card. Got to go, baby.
Yeah.
And my sensei designed that.
Nice.
Yeah. But anyway, so Jamie comes up there. I did not like him at all. And he was dressed all in white, and he was just a complete goofball.
Was his hair long?
Yes, kind of. He had a mullet. And so I said, listen, Vic, I don't want to work with this guy. He goes, no, take my word for it. Just do it. Just try it. Yeah. So I put him on the air, and immediately he's a hit.
What do they call him?
Buddy. Hey, buddy, Frazer, let me tell you, buddy, we got it going here at the comedy on the KLOS.
Jamie, David, every other word is buddy.
Yeah.
Buddy.
And he called everyone buddy. And so then he became a hit because I don't really know why. He sounds kind of cartoonish. So I think people thought it was like...
People like weird shit.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it was different and weird.
There you go. And Jamie's not funny at all, except by accident.
Right.
And he'll say stuff that's not fun, that he doesn't even know what he's saying, and it's hilarious.
So he's probably like, why are they laughing?
Yeah, and so all of a sudden he's a hit on the show. And he starts doing merch. He had buddy T-shirts and beer koozies. And
Now, did he have to get it okay through the station to do that? Or
yeah, well, I don't know how he worked that because they were really tough on me about that. I had to... They basically stole Too Hip from me, and they stole Party Animal. I'm still mad at my lawyer, but they anyway. So Jamie became a big hit on there, and he didn't have the club then, and he had met a movie producer, at the Comedy Store because Jamie was trying to do stand up.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And
I don't know that. A lot of these new comics don't know that.
Here was his joke that I remember. He goes, "I went to a pet psychiatrist the other day." So there I was telling my troubles to a German Shepherd.
We're laughing because it's
Jamie.
It's silly funny.
It's so stupid, right? But
yo,
anyway, that was
that's a joke that you say with your buddies in the office.
Right, yeah.
But I can see him trying to do it to become a store comic.
So that really didn't pan out. But anyway, he met this producer. And the guy was looking for a tax write-off. So Jamie, and he was funny, Jamie was walking along Sunset, and he heard these guys saying, it was the original Greenblatt owners. Mm. And they were saying, well, we're going to have to move. We want to move. Let's lease that place out. Because Greenblatt's used to be where Laugh Factory
on
is
the corner.
now.
Right?
Yeah, on the corner. It was a thin little place. little deli. So they were going to abandon that and move the place to where they were down the street.
Why have I heard that it was like a Chinese restaurant?
Well, it was a Chinese restaurant that was in between there. It was Off Fong's, and which was a famous Chinese restaurant in Hollywood, which had a terrible decor, but the food was great. So the stars it was back in the limo era. Stars would pull up all day long in their limos.
To this hole in the wall.
Yeah, and then get the takeout. So anyway, Jamie leased the place, and he says, Frazer, I'm going to do a comedy club. I go, okay, right. And he did it. He opened it up. And
was it called the Laugh Factory?
It was called Laugh Factory right off the bat,
cool.
I wanted to seem like they are punching in to do jokes, like they are working at a factory.
Wow.
So, okay.
All right.
So then, yeah.
You're hilarious, buddy.
So he opens up this place, and Frazer, you must come down and be the MC at the club. Well, it was his way of getting more PR.
Right.
He's smart. Yeah. So I'm on the radio.
He's no dummy.
I'll be there tonight. Oh, he's very smart.
Yeah.
I'll be down there tonight doing MCing at the club. Whenever I would say that, my show was huge. So it would just pack out. If I just mentioned something once, it would pack out.
And I heard those early days too, it wasn't nice in there.
No, it wasn't. He had no, and it was like he didn't have a liquor license. He only had beer, wine, and he didn't have any food. So he'd go down to Greenblatt's and get they had these giant turkey legs. So you'd see the people and they're drinking a beer. They'd buy some beer. It was like medieval times. They
got chicken legs.
They got giant turkey and drinking a beer.
Oh my God.
And,
and what were they watching? What were they getting?
Well, they were getting
caliber
like
of comedy?
all the beginning comics.
Okay.
And like none of us were any good. And none of the big shots would, the real comics would drive by, give us the finger, and drive up to the comedy store,
yeah.
right? So, and I remember Paul Rodriguez always used to drive by in his Porsche and flip us off. And so we'd be, all right. So
story.
Yeah, so we would, we were terrible. But
and comedians today get so upset if you're just a little bit mean to them.
Oh, yeah.
They have no idea what hazing is. That's incredible.
That was just hazing. They were actually, so what helped him out was a lot of the big comics decided to use Laugh Factory as a place to try out new material.
I heard one of them was.
So all of a sudden, the first guy that came down was Dice. And Dice was huge then, right?
Yeah.
And so Dice came down and would do his,
Dice Clay.
Would work on his stuff, Andrew Dice Clay. And then Pryor started coming down there because Paul Mooney would come down.
And
Paul
Pryor,
Mooney,
I heard
Paul
Pryor
Mooney
went
was a
down there too.
genius.
Yes.
Paul Mooney was one of the best comedians you'll ever see.
Now, I heard Pryor went down there to do that because he was working on his comeback show.
Yeah.
And he didn't want anybody to see him at the store.
That's exactly why they would do it.
Wow.
It was the place you could try your new stuff. And
no one's pulling iPhones out back then. And
so, yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly. So we're down there, us shitty little comics, and then there's Richard Pryor, and then there's Paul Mooney, and then there's Dice and Kinnison. Sam used to come down. And so all of a sudden we got all these heavyweights down there, and they're trying all their new bits.
I mean, it can't be too long before word got out.
Word starts to get out, and then he starts to get better level of comics, right? And I started out emceeing. I was just an MC there, and I kind of liked emceeing. So I go, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this. And back then, it was really hard to break into the store. You just couldn't. The lineup was Letterman, Leno, Jim Carrey, Roseanne, Pryor, Robin Williams in a row.
Right.
You'd have 12 home run hitters in a row. So I couldn't get in there. So we would go to Westwood Comedy Club. Westwood
was the other comedy store.
That was the other comedy store club.
What did they call it? Comedy Store West?
Westwood Comedy Store. And that was on Westwood Boulevard in the Village. And
Brad Garrett told me that's where they had him start.
That's where all of us started.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get in, So we would do the little Laugh Factory, and then we would go over to Westwood. And Westwood was great because Mitzi was never there. Mitzi was terrifying.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
She was 4'5" of pure terror.
Yo.
Everyone was afraid of her.
Brutally honest.
She would just destroy someone.
Yeah.
And she was also a star maker. She could make you or break you. And with that kind of power, everyone was intimidated by her. And she was a tiny little thing. And when she walked in the room, all the air went out of the room.
I tell you, in my opinion, the comedy today is missing that. We're missing those.
Well, she She had a great eye.
Yeah.
She could tell, and she discovered all those stars that I just mentioned. She must have discovered 30 major stars. And just one after another, she could pick them. And they all went there. It was the other thing. It was a very fertile time for comedy because all those big super talents were there.
Yeah.
And Mitzi discovered them and kind of groomed them. And we would go to Westwood because she was never there. And so we ran the place.
Be more loose. Yeah.
The inmates were running the asylum.
You're right.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I remember the first night I went there, I met Dice, I met Kinnison, I met Shandling, Robin Williams. They were all, and the big guys would come there to practice too. Letterman, they were all coming down there. And I went in the first night, Bob Zaney brought me in there. He goes, Fraze, watch this guy. And it was Dice. The Dice comes up and he doesn't say anything for 5 minutes. He just lights his cigarette and keeps spitting into the mic. And then he would, around his head and the whole deal.
I was going, I got to use that mic next.
Yeah, I know. But Dice, he was great. And he would back then he was doing impressions. He would do like, Travolta.
Mm-hmm. I heard the Dice character was just one part of his act.
Small part of his act. The rest, he was really good with impressions. And so he would do that. And Kinnison, we would put Kinnison up at the end to chase people out when we wanted to go home. Because he would just run up to the front of the stage and start screaming at people. And it'd be, honey, get your coat. We're out of here.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was just like insane. And he had been a preacher in Houston. And he came there wanting to be a comic. And that's where he developed, was there.
Man, shit.
All that stuff that he did that scared people out later made him famous.
Right.
Because he would walk the entire room.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so you really connected with the emceeing part of it.
I like emceeing. I still do. I just wanted to be a host.
It's a really good way to develop bits, though, too, because you're up all night.
Well,
and you got to keep them happy.
You keep going.
Yeah.
You're always on stage. You get more stage time.
Our buddy Russell Peters loves to host.
He's great at it.
Yeah.
And in certain places, like in England, the host is the star of the show.
Yeah.
And in Boston, certain scenes where
sometimes some of the New York clubs as well. But
yeah.
I remember the first time I did stand up in New York, when I saw that the host got paid more than me, I didn't understand that, and then I realized, he's working hard.
You're working harder. Yeah, you're working harder. Yeah, you're there all night, and you can't leave, and you can't go somewhere else,
right,
to make money. But I always liked it, and Jamie was always great to me. We were buddies. We would go hang out afterwards. We were young, and so we were, out chasing women and drinking and partying and doing drugs.
In the 80s,
we were party animals. Yeah, and we would go down to Carlos and Charlie's.
Yes.
Which later became Dublin's.
Dublin's, yeah. Right? We used to go there when it was still Carlos and
Charlie's. Oh, did you?
Right. Yeah.
And it was owned by Alice Cooper,
rock
star, who was an old friend of mine. And Jamie knew the manager. So she took a liking to us because she was running a place on Sunset. She knew that we didn't have any money. And she was like, okay, I'm going to be nice to these guys. So we would go in there, and it was all millionaires except us. And we would have the best table.
Oh, man.
They'd be looking at us like they wanted to kill us.
All the young girls thought you were the millionaires.
Well, they thought we had money until
the bill came.
Until later,
Right.
And then we were gone.
Yeah.
But she gave us a break on everything. And awesome. So we kind of had the run of the strip, And then when my show took off.
To me, that's the golden age of the strip, by the
way. When my show took off, I really had the run of the strip. I was basically big man on campus in L.A.
Yeah.
Anywhere I went. And my buddy ran the Whiskey. My other buddy ran the Roxy.
Nice.
I knew the owner of the Rainbow, who owned them all three of those.
We talked about this on a couple episodes ago. The Red Onion. Did you guys go to the Red Onion?
Yeah, Red Onion.
Where was that? That was on Sunset, right?
Well, no, the one we went to was on Wilshire.
Wilshire.
Yeah.
The Wilshire Red Onion. My dad used to play there.
Yeah, did he?
He played there.
That was another amazing place.
We were trying to remember if it was Sunset. I thought it was on Sunset, but Wilshire. Now I remember that.
Yeah, 3580 Wilshire.
Boom.
And I had my radio show there at KLSX. This was much later in the 90s. And I had we were next door to the Red Onion. So when I didn't have a guest, I would send my producer over to the Red Onion to see if anyone famous was there. I could snag, come as a guest on my show. Yeah.
That's so cool.
But on Sunset, basically I ran the town. I all those bands were breaking. the Police and everybody, and I would introduce them at the Whiskey, and I'd introduce all the big bands at
So you were going on stage at those venues as well, bringing
yeah,
oh, that's
bringing
so
people
cool.
on stage.
There they are.
Their first time they were yeah, there they are. There's
else?
Rodney.
Who
That's
else
Rodney
is?
Bingenheimer right
Oh,
there.
there he is.
Yeah, and
With?
he had a club.
Heebie-jeebies?
He had a club called Rodney's English Disco, which was on Sunset, just east of the Laugh Factory, same side of the street, north side.
No shit.
Yeah,
Is it true that back in those days that side of the strip was kind of seedy? They were still
yeah,
like
it was real
drug dealers
seedy,
and hookers?
and that was the hooker era. Right in front of the Laugh Factory was always hookers,
Mhm.
and then Rodney was, and of course the comics were too broke to have anything to do with them. Rodney's place was down the street, and it was a tiny little place. And when you would walk in there, Led Zeppelin would be in there, The Who, all the big bands would come there. As soon as they got off the plane, they'd come to hang out there and drink a Guinness because it had an English feel to it.
Gotcha. Now, real quick, to clear up this Rodney, is he the one, Rodney on the Rocks or something?
Rodney on the Rock.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. It was on KROQ.
Yes.
I remember
It's
everybody
Showing
listened to that.
Everybody
Yeah.
did.
And
Yeah,
see,
Rodney
my
Rock.
show was right after his. The Hollywood
Right.
Night Shift show was right after his. And so, or actually before his. We were on before him.
Huh.
So that's how I knew Rodney, and that's how I met all those bands.
Let me ask you if you know this band. They were big mid to late 80s. They were just killing it on the strip.
Local special.
They were a rock blues band headed by a Japanese American guy. The name of the band was BB Chungking and the Screaming Buddha Heads.
You know, I totally know the name, and I know the band who you're talking about. I don't think I ever met them.
Their manager was my dad's manager.
Oh,
When
is
my
that right?
dad was in music, that guy who managed them managed my dad.
What did your dad
And
play?
that's where we were
Bass
able to go
guitar.
see these.
He played bass.
Guitar, yeah.
Bass guitar.
And guitar?
songwriter.
Mostly bass.
So during that whole hair metal, all that stuff down the strip, David and I were able to go to so many of these shows and see these bands like Motley Crue.
So
and
you
stuff
were up there anyway.
because
Yeah.
the guy who worked with these guys, the Buddha Heads, got us into shows, even if we weren't old enough to get in.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wasn't that was a great era.
Yeah.
I discovered Motley Crue too.
unbelievable.
Yeah. That I would go to the Rainbow
Yeah,
because the Rainbow was the main hang for all those bands. And I was the big DJ in town. So when I would go in, there was a cassette era, and they would all give me their cassettes. So I would leave with my pockets filled with cassettes, and I would never listen to them. And not to be a dick, I
you
just had
remember
my.
that? We were trying to do music at them days too. Trying to get somebody to listen to your demo was next to impossible.
It's really hard, right?
Yeah.
And I would never listen because I was like busy. I was trying to do my morning show,
Mhm.
so I wasn't trying to be mean to them. I just didn't,
Did you sleep?
No, I never slept back then.
Because you're out and about at night. You got a morning show.
I never slept, and I have a story about that.
A lot of cocaine.
Real quick,
Yeah,
who are
with
some of the
cocaine.
other guys that would give you tapes?
Actually, there was a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, right. Who else would like that we would know that gave you tapes?
Oh gosh, who used to
Like
give
Motley
me tapes?
Crue and-
Poison.
Okay.
Who
Rat.
else? Yep. Who I still know, Stephen Person,
Yeah.
my buddy.
Cinderella.
Yep, all
All
those
those
guys,
guys, all
all
those
of them,
guys.
all
Yeah,
the
all
hair
dressed
metal
like-
guys would
all
give me their
dressed
stuff,
like
right?
women. It was amazing.
And some bands that have, disappeared.
See, people think that cross-dressing is such a new trance. Is a new thing. They've been doing it since
Oh yeah.
Oh, look at the first Motley Crue album.
Yeah, with the makeup.
Yeah.
and the
Yeah. Twisted.
Are you kidding?
Twisted
And they got
Sister.
all the chicks,
kidding?
and it was a wild time.
Yeah.
And I would go home and not listen to any of that. But then one day I think I was homesick or something. I go, all right, I'm going to put one of these on, and it was Motley Crue, and the song was Live Wire.
Mm.
Remember Live Wire?
Yep.
From the first album, I think. And so my boss calls me up and he goes, "What the hell is that? What is that?" And because you really had to adhere to their record list.
Mm.
It had gotten to that point.
Is it because the labels are paying the radio station?
Yes, that it was corporate payola, and that took over from the old payola where they would give you cocaine and money.
Right.
the
Remember
DJs.
those days?
Yeah, those were the good days.
Yeah, man.
This became you didn't get any money, but your station did.
Right.
So you couldn't play anything off book, but every once in a while you'd sneak one in there if you thought it was something special,
You did.
and the phones just lit up, and that meant viral back in those days.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Wow.
the crew exploded off of that.
And then meanwhile, you're doing stand-up?
I'm doing stand up at Jamie's Club, and I really
No
had.
sleep.
I didn't sleep, and I would come into the station. My boss's parking spot was the closest to the station, So I'd come blasting in there. I had to be there at 6, and I'd
Take his
be
spot.
driving in at 5:58.
Oh,
Right.
my God.
And then I would take his spot, and then I would move my car during a commercial break later in the show.
Oh, wow.
And one day I forgot to move my car. So, somebody poked their head in the studio and go, your car's being towed. And I go out in the parking lot. My boss had my car towed.
Knew it was your car.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
He was just a dick. And
wonderful.
and this guy was a jerk. And so the 2 hip stickers had just come out. And so I took a microphone out to the parking lot, and I asked the tow truck driver, who had my car towed? And he goes, Bill Summers. So
That's great, though.
so then I said, you know what? I went on the air and I go, my boss just had my car towed. I go, if you see a silver Cadillac with a 2 hip sticker on the back, go give him the finger.
No.
So, and everyone in town was listening to me, everybody. So at every stoplight, everyone was I go honk and flip him off.
I love it.
So everybody was honking, hey, Bill, fuck you. And
this,
for like
this
weeks.
This makes me want to get into the next question. One of the things that I heard people say about you when I first started, one of the credits was, this guy's been kicked off of every major radio station in LA.
Well, I have been fired from probably everything that has a K in front of it. No.
But this is a true thing?
Yeah, it is true. I got fired a lot. And
For those kind of things?
yeah, stunts like that, but also just basically, and a lot of it was tame compared to what Stern did later.
Yeah.
But I think really what it was I always had a thing against authority.
Mhm.
You talk about discipline for your teaching. You have to listen to your sensei. I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff. I don't have a problem with, but work-related stuff, especially if the boss is wrecking your show.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
if they didn't wreck my show, I didn't care.
Right.
I wouldn't pick on.
I love this.
the boss.
KROQ bounces.
Yeah, there you
Frazer
go.
Smith.
There you go.
In case you hadn't heard,
Yeah, well,
Frazer
there you
Smith
go.
is no longer with KROQ.
Yeah.
Did they say why?
Well,
He
in that one,
poured gas. He put sugar in the boss's gas tank, whatever it was.
well, I did a lot of stuff, and one thing that I did was an article for LA Magazine, which was a big magazine at the time.
This is great. The fans loved you. They were like protesting and
Yeah, they were.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, they were. Yeah, and I had done this article, and I was already in trouble with the bosses. I was pushing the envelope at every chance that I got because that's what made me popular.
Right.
What made me popular was that I was a wildcat.
Yeah, like this here, you're fighting for a 250 mile an hour speed limit.
I did. Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Well, that's what they were saying that you
You're
had.
driving that anyways.
You had to drive 50 miles at 55.
Yeah.
And so I go, I want it to be 250.
That's so funny.
And so I would do stuff like that. And then in this article, the reporter came in to watch my show. And he goes, your show's killing. He goes, but what's going on with this station? There's no, they didn't have any, there was no furniture in there. There was nothing. It just, they were mobsters running the station. And what happened was that they were putting $0 into it and no commercials. And he goes, well, what are they doing? Well, what they were doing was they were trying to scale everything down, not pay anybody. And our checks were bouncing just so they could sell it to a major broadcasting company. So we were getting completely screwed over, but my show was shooting through the roof. So he goes, what's going on? So we went to a bar afterwards to have a beer, and he goes, I'm off the record. And he turned off his tape recorder. But I learned the important lesson. You're never off the record.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, I go, these jerks are running this thing into the ground. And, I said all the stuff that you don't say.
And they printed it.
And they printed it.
Yo.
And so then I'm fired immediately because these mobsters didn't want any bad press. They were trying to sell this thing.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm out. And about a month later, KLOS came calling and hired me.
I thought you
You're
were
on
going to say
air.
you got like a horse head in your bed.
Well, I was worried about it.
Yeah.
I was actually good that I had to lie low for a month because who knew what would happen with those clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I better not call them clowns. They might still be around. But, so I got a KLOS. It was an upgrade. That was the big rocker and the big station in town.
Yep.
So and I started my show there. And then I went through the roof there too.
Yeah,
just
man.
by being that weird guy that,
Just being that weird dude.
yeah.
I want to. There you are. Look at that.
Yeah,
Too hip.
yeah.
That's the sticker we had with the rainbow thingy around it.
Yeah, I had to go.
Look at that. Who's the coyote on the side, or what is that?
Well, honestly, that's really true.
Stevie.
You guys, I didn't really follow through on it, but I took a few Wing Chun classes. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Wing Chun?
Yeah.
And my sifu was Randy Williams. And Randy was a really good martial artist who wound up being a bodyguard for a lot of for Eric Clapton and a lot of big people.
Okay.
He's a great guy, and he was a fan of my show, and he was an artist. So he drew that wolf. I go,
That's cool.
I need a party animal logo.
There it is.
So Randy drew that. And
Pretty good.
yeah, and
Sundays, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m.
well, that was the most recent
Yeah, I was gonna
KLOS
say.
thing.
I
That
went on
picture,
that one.
yeah, you were on that show.
Yeah.
That picture is a recent picture. Back in the day, I had like a punk haircut, spiky
I
haircut.
remember
I
that.
was
That's another thing I wanted to talk about. The first time I met you, I'm like, this guy's got great hair. You're like my brother and I. We're very fortunate that we still
you guys
have
have great hair,
we still have
Yeah,
our
and
good
our
hair
great hair.
lines.
and you guys are
You never
handsome
lost your hair.
guys.
Any kids?
No,
That's why.
yeah, yeah.
Kept your hair because you got none of them little motherfuckers. None of them dudes to make you have heart attacks.
Well, it's true, but I was into drugs.
They're coming to get us.
There's our ride.
It's always at about 50 minutes.
Right about this time they come by.
They know.
I arranged it.
Of course you did.
Solomon put it together. Hey, can you guys tell me one of your stories about the Brothers Johnson? What happened there?
Oh, here's what happened. I was producing hip hop music. My brother and I were doing that, and I met a guy. I ended up at the Long Beach City College in their music program, and there was a kid in there that I noticed would bring. They supplied us instruments, all the equipment, drum machines, everything. And I noticed there was this one kid in the class. He always brought in his own drum machine, and it was bigger and better than the one I got. So I ended up befriending him. We ended up doing some producing together. I got my mom to buy me that drum machine. And we ended up just kind of becoming buddies. And then he's like, yo, my aunt she's one of the Emotions.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to go watch the Holyfield, the first Foreman Tyson fight. I went with him to her house to watch this fight. Her husband is the keyboard player for Brothers Johnson.
Oh.
Yeah. The hell was his name? Name's slipping my mind.
Dang it.
I hate that. I'm so
Yeah.
bad at that. It was there.
Mhm.
Wayne Vaughn.
Wayne Vaughn.
Good.
Wayne Vaughn but he was also a producer, and he had this beautiful recording studio in his home. So we got to record some stuff out of this guy's studio who was the keyboard player for Brothers Johnson, which was kind of a really cool thing because the bass player for Brothers Johnson was one of my dad's, kind of the guys that my dad liked to listen to, and so we had that little connection.
Oh, yeah, cool.
First and only time I ever held a Grammy or an American Music Award was at their house.
Yeah.
It was my friend's aunt's house. She was the lead singer of the Emotions, Best of My Love.
Well, that's a
And they were on
talented,
Boogie
yeah,
Wonderland.
talented
Yeah.
Best of My
person then.
Love, which was also, and then I think Mariah Carey sampled it, and then
Yep.
and then even called the song "Emotions."
Yeah.
And the Emotions backup band, their band was Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
And which
Wow.
was My brother and I,
Wow.
our all-time favorite. My all-time favorite is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, they're great.
And it's funny because I'm 53 and I just barely got to see them live for the first time. My wife took me as a gift.
How were they?
Amazing.
Great, right?
And they were the opening act
Wow.
for Lionel Richie.
Oh, wow.
But I'm going to go see them again in September at the Forum, where they're co-headlining with Chicago,
Oh, that'll be
which
huge.
is going to be great. But
I've
yeah,
seen
that
clips of that, and they do each come out and do their sets, but then they all come out.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Great, great.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
that's it. That's that story.
It's a great song, by the way.
We got to bump elbows with some cool people in that industry because of my dad's old connections and stuff like that.
Dun,
and the
dun,
people that I
dun,
met.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
What a great hook.
What's that song called, Dave?
Strawberry Letter
I
22.
knew it.
Yeah.
One of my
I knew
favorite.
Strawberry
One
Yeah.
of my
What
favorite.
does that
Great-
mean?
great
What is
hook.
it about?
Yeah.
What's that about?
It
I have
was
no
a
idea.
dream. It was all gibberish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a Chicago song that's just numbers. 16,
60125. Yeah.
What's it
That's a
about?
great band, though, too.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Good horn band. I
Yeah.
love horn bands.
Yeah.
Certain songs, and I'm like, is that about are they singing about like a local highway in their town? And
I heard a
Oh,
story
right.
on that, but I can't remember what it is. But
Yeah, we're good.
yeah. But there's one other story I want to
Yeah.
tell later.
Please tell it.
Later, when I was on KLSX radio, which is the one that was by the Red Onion,
Mhm.
and that was in the 90s, early 90s. And I had a boss that was cool. You don't
Finally.
get too many of them. Yeah, exactly.
You don't
Thank
get one of those very often.
You don't. And this guy was like a big fan. So anything I wanted, I felt almost guilty because everybody else, all the other DJs were like, having a hard time. And he was like, anything I needed,
It's amazing.
So so I had this, I don't know what made me do this, but I did a show one time called Fraz World, where it was, we had all these sound effects like you guys have here.
Yeah.
And we made it sound like
Good ones.
it was a theme park. But I did it real straight. I did it real like, I got a business plan and I got a developer and I've come up with this whole, I'm doing this theme park, Fraz World, and I had made up all these fake rides, right? And I was telling it to Buddy and any guest that would come on, I would tell them about it. And so they did an article on me in LA Times. And so the guy goes, well, what's the deal with this Fraz World? And there was a vacant lot on Wilshire down the street, and it was a really big lot. And you couldn't see in there. It had everything. I go, yeah, it's down the street. You can drive by it. And so this guy put it in the LA Times. He goes, Frazer Smith is going to be opening a theme park, this thing. And my boss loved it. This guy was...
that didn't get you fired.
No, he loved
Amazing.
it. He goes, Frazer, I love it. Look at all the press we're getting. And then the Hollywood Reporter picked up on it, and they did a thing on it. Fraz World, coming soon. And then I had these sound effects, and I play, here's one of our rides, and made all this sound. This was really crazy. And then my boss, they would ask my boss about it, and he would say, oh, yeah. He'd corroborate it. He'd go, yeah, Frazer's opening a theme park, and we're really excited for him. And he had the other DJs talking about it.
That's great.
It was awesome.
It never came.
Well, no. I was thinking maybe somebody
remember
might.
any of the rides?
I wanted to ride the
I can't remember.
The Fraser wheel was going to be
But
one of mine.
That's the kind of stuff we had, stupid
that's so funny.
rides,
Oh, man, that's awesome. I bet you have so many more these stories to tell. One of the things that you told me is that how the Laugh Factory went from a hole in the wall with a stage in the corner to what it is now. And was it did they have a show on A&E or something?
It was on Fox.
Fox.
And what happened there was, it was a tiny little club.
Right.
And Mr. Ah Fong passed away, the owner of the Chinese restaurant. So Jamie took out a loan and bought the restaurant from the Ah Fongs. So then all the comics went in there one night and knocked down the wall with sledgehammers.
Because we weren't going to pay people to do
Yeah,
it.
no, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. And then he had no money. So he has this big place now with no, he didn't have any chairs or anything.
There's no decor,
So
there's holes in the wall.
Not the holes in the wall. So he went and he got some chairs and he put them in there. He made some kind of a deal. And, but this place still looked horrible.
I would love to see photos.
It just looked horrible. And so he opened up anyway. And then about a couple months later, I get a call from my buddy. I knew the head of Fox at the time. And he calls me up and he goes, I'm going to make your friend a millionaire. And I go, what? And he goes,
maybe part of that.
well, yeah, how about me? But anyway, so they had tried Mitzi at Comedy Store. And Mitzi is a real tough egg. She's not going to go for anything unless she's got a big piece of it.
And she won't change anything.
No, exactly. So she really drove a hard bargain, and they said, now pass. Well, they were located on Fox, which was just down the street at Metro Media Square, which is where KMET used to be, my other station I was on, the famous radio station.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember KMET, the
Yes.
Mighty Met?
Yep.
Little Bit
Mighty
of Heaven,
Met.
94.7?
Mighty Met, yep.
Well, the other ones
KROQ
you got
Kelly?
fired from, right?
Yeah, another one I did get fired from. So
For you kids that are listening right now, you younger generations, firing was our version of being canceled.
yeah,
So you got
yeah,
canceled
yeah.
from.
That's right. And pretty much all of them. So let's not bring any more up because
All right, yeah, it's a great resume.
I'm just kidding. But
the
I
worst resume around town. This guy's been fired.
for a DJ, it's actually a good thing in a weird way,
right?
Maybe. But anyway, so he goes, we want to stay on Sunset. So we want to call it Comic Strip Live, like Sunset Strip. So the only other club on Sunset was Laugh Factory. So they go in there and they remodeled the place, which Jamie hasn't changed since.
And he didn't have to pay for that either.
No, they put $500,000
I
into
said he's not
remodeling
dummy.
it.
What year was this about?
This was probably 87, I think, 88, something like that. And So now it's got a whole new look, and it was, and then they did that show, Comic Strip Live, for 7 years.
I remember that.
Now, the stage that's upstairs in that VIP room, that backdrop, was that the original backdrop or something? Because I've seen clips of like Fallon, and they're in front of that thing, not the one that's in the club.
I think it was just another version of
Okay.
the downstairs one,
Oh,
because
okay.
I don't think they ever did anything upstairs.
Mm.
But he, but Fallon used to come in, and Chris Rock used to come in, and it got to be pretty popular place. And the Comic Strip Live was a hit.
Oh, yeah.
And so, right, you remember it
remember,
probably,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And they had everybody on there. I was the warm-up guy on the show, and so I got a check for 7 years. It was great.
Incredible.
And Jamie got something like $35,000 a week forever. So he was a millionaire.
Jamie never falls down. He's always falling
He's
up.
amazing how he does that.
He's like a cat. Always
Amazing.
will land on his
But
feet.
also it's location,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
but
You know, he's not a dummy, but he's not a genius.
well, exactly,
You know.
but he did do, he was able to keep that thing rolling.
Yeah, man.
And then I the one thing I remember, the time I remember was, I had, one of my favorite shows that I ever did was, at KLSX, the one that was over by Red Onion,
Mhm.
and I had Roddy Piper, the wrestler,
Ah,
right when he did They Live,
yeah.
and he, you know, and
Yeah.
he was huge. He was all steroided up, and
Big-
Rodney Dangerfield was on the show too, because Bob Saget was best friends with Rodney, and they stopped by the show, just happened to stop by. So that was the show. It was Rodney Piper, and Saget.
What was the name of it?
That was just a Frazer Smith show
Right.
at KLSX. It was a Saturday night show, and I remember Rodney going, "Hey, who was that guy?" He didn't know who Rodney Piper was.
I got this. Hang with
Good
him.
Rodney, by the
Little-
way.
Oh, he was the greatest guy ever, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Piper.
It was cool seeing him at the store and watching him
Yes.
do spots. And
He
stuff
tried
like
to do
that.
stand up later, and
Yeah.
he was.
It was what he did is he did it right. He didn't come in as this guy and I'm going to try this. He just told stories,
Yeah,
and he told his story.
and he had great
And they were
stories.
Great. You know who's got great stories? Frazer.
Frazer Smith.
wow.
Frazer Smith. I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
we
Oh,
are
I'm
out of
sorry,
time.
guys.
No, this is great. Time flies. We're gonna have you back. Frazer and I, we love working together in Vegas. That's our spot. We do Brad Garrett's Club together out there, and
Let's get that one going
I'm gonna
again.
get that one going again. And where can they find you? You're at the store every week. You're at the
Store every Monday. Usually Laugh Factory late on Saturday night every week,
every week.
and the other clubs I'm here and there.
Sweet. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Thanks so
guys.
much
That
for
was
joining us
really
here.
Great. Thank you.
It's great to see both of you.
Don't forget to rate, review at Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, wherever it is that you download your podcast. And thank you for doing that. Continue to do that. Also on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And of course, one-stop shop, everything Unidentical Pod. Go to unidenticalpod.com. With that, thank you guys so much. Bye.
Unidentical.